Some of you walked in here carrying things you never chose, patterns you didn't start, struggles you didn't create, pain that feels older than your own life. You tried to escape it, outgrow it, outwork it, but somehow it keeps showing up again and again. Same results, same disappointments, same limits. And the world told you that's just how it is. But I'm here to tell you that's a lie. You're not here to repeat history. You are here to break it. See, most people think power looks loud. They think it looks big. They think it looks dramatic. But real power often shows up small, simple, quiet, overlooked. And yet, when it touches something broken, it transforms everything. Just like salt, small in size but unstoppable in impact. Salt preserves. Salt purifies. Salt changes the environment. And today, I want you to understand this. You carry that same kind of power inside you. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need approval to change your story. You don't need validation to walk in authority. What you need is awareness. Because the moment you realize who you are, what you carry, and why you're here, curses lose their grip. Cycles lose their control. Limits lose their voice. You weren't created to survive life. You were created to dominate it, to shift atmospheres, to break chains, to restore what was broken long before you ever arrived. And tonight, you're not just listening to words. You're stepping into a new identity, a new mindset, a new level. Because what ends with you will never touch the next generation. If you're ready to break every curse and walk in your true power, then stay with me. This is where your story changes. You're not born to be bound. You are born to break cycles. That truth is not motivational poetry. It is a declaration about your design. Every human being enters this world with potential, not with limitations. Yet so many people grow up believing that their future is already written by their past. They see patterns in their family, in their environment, in their community, and they assume those patterns must continue through them. But inheritance does not mean imprisonment. Just because something ran in your bloodline does not mean it has authority over your destiny. You may have come from dysfunction, lack, fear, or defeat, but you were not created to reproduce those things. You were created to interrupt them. Cycles exist because people unconsciously agree with them. They see what happened before and accept that it will happen again. But the moment someone becomes aware, the cycle is already under threat. Awareness is the first crack in the wall. When you realize that you're not here by accident, that you're not a mistake of history, that you're not a victim of yesterday, something begins to shift inside you. You stop asking, why does this keep happening to me? And you start declaring, it stops with me. That is the language of a cycle breaker. Breaking cycles requires courage, because you will often be the first one to do things differently. You will think differently, speak differently, dream differently, and act differently. That makes you uncomfortable to systems that are built on repetition. But you are not designed to fit in a broken pattern. You are designed to introduce a new one. You are proof that the future does not have to look like the past. You are evidence that change is possible. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, truth over fear, and purpose over pressure, you weaken the power of old patterns. Your birth was not random. You arrived at the exact time you did because history needed an interruption. Somewhere before you, something went wrong. Somewhere behind you, something needs to be restored. And you are the bridge between those two realities. You carry the ability to say no to what everyone else tolerated. You carry the strength to confront what others avoided. You carry the vision to build what others never imagined. You are not here to repeat what broke your family, your community, or your generation. You are here to redefine it. You are here to introduce healing where there was harm, wisdom where there was confusion, and courage where there was silence. The moment you accept that your life has purpose beyond survival, you stop being a product of your environment, and you become a producer of change. What looks small can carry unstoppable power. Most people underestimate things because they judge by size instead of by purpose. They think if it's not loud, flashy, or dramatic, then it must not be important. But history is shaped by small decisions, quiet moments, and unseen shifts that later become unstoppable movements. A single thought can change a life. A single choice can redirect a future. A single act of courage can break years of fear. Power does not announce itself with noise. Real power works in silence until the results speak for it. You've been taught to wait for something big before you believe change is possible. You wait for big money, big opportunities, big connections, big luck. But the truth is, transformation begins with small obedience, small discipline, small consistency, small steps taken daily in the right direction. It's easy to overlook what seems insignificant, but what you repeat becomes what you become. Tiny actions done with intention create massive impact over time. That's why the smallest seed can grow into the largest tree, and the quietest decision can lead to the loudest breakthrough. The problem is not that people lack power. The problem is they ignore the power they already have. They look at others and think, they're gifted, they're special, they're different. But you don't need to be different. You need to be faithful with what's already in your hands. Your words have power. Your habits have power. Your mindset has power. Your attitude has power. Every day, you're either using that power to build your future or to delay it. And most people don't fail because they did something big wrong. They fail because they never took the small things seriously. Think about this. The direction of your life is not changed by one massive event, but by thousands of small choices stacked together. The way you talk to yourself, the way you respond to pressure, the way you treat time, the way you handle disappointment. These things look small, but they shape your identity. And your identity shapes your destiny. When you master the small, you earn the right to handle the great. When you respect the process will reward you. Never despise where you are or what you have. What you're carrying right now may not look impressive, but it's powerful when you use it correctly. You don't need more before you start. You need belief before you grow. Because when you activate what's already inside you, you awaken a force that can shift your entire life. What looks small in your hands becomes unstoppable when it's aligned with purpose and persistence. Your identity is stronger than any curse placed on you. Long before anyone spoke fear over your life, labeled you, limited you, or doubted you, your identity was already established. You were designed with intention, not accident. But somewhere along the way, voices from the outside try to define you from the inside. They told you who you were based on your past, your mistakes, your environment, or your struggles. And if you're not careful, you start wearing those labels like they belong to you. But a lie repeated long enough does not become truth. It just becomes familiar. A curse only has power if you agree with it. A limitation only controls you if you accept it. Your identity is not built for what happened to you. It is built from what was placed in you. You may have grown up around chaos, lack, fear, or dysfunction, but none of that has the authority to rewrite your design. You are not the product of your trauma. You are the proof that trauma can be overcome. You are not the echo of someone else's failure. You are the beginning of something new. The reason identity is so powerful is because everything flows from it. The way you see yourself determines the way you live your life. If you believe you are weak, you will act weak. If you believe you're broken, you will settle for broken outcomes. But when you understand that you are capable, valuable, and chosen, your behavior rises to meet that belief. You stop shrinking. You stop hiding. You stop apologizing for your existence. You start walking with clarity and confidence, even when life is uncertain. Curses try to define your future by your past. Identity defines your future by your purpose. That's why breaking free is not about changing your environment first. It's about changing your self-perception. When you know who you are, pressure loses its power. Fear loses its voice. Doubt loses its grip. You stop asking the world for permission to become what you were already created to be. There is something unbreakable about a person who knows their identity. You can challenge their circumstances, but you can't collapse their spirit. You can delay their progress, but you can't destroy their direction. They may fall, but they don't stay down because their sense of self pulls them back up. They understand that failure is an event, not a definition. Struggle is a season, not a sentence. You don't need to fight every curse directly. You overcome them by standing fully in who you are. When your identity is clear, everything false around you begins to fall apart. The moment you stop seeing yourself as damaged and start seeing yourself as designed, everything changes because what's inside you is greater than anything that was ever spoken over you. Change begins when you understand your spiritual authority. Most people wait for permission to become who they already are. They wait for circumstances to improve, for people to approve, for fear to disappear. But real change doesn't start outside of you. It starts the moment you recognize that you were not created to live at the mercy of life, but to influence it. Authority is not about control over others. It is about control over your own decisions, your mindset, and your direction. When you understand that you have the power to choose differently, speak differently, and move differently, your life begins to shift. Spiritual authority is the confidence that you are not powerless. It is the awareness that your words carry weight, your choices carry consequence, and your presence carries impact. Too many people live as if life is happening to them instead of through them. They react instead of respond. They complain instead of command. They tolerate instead of transform. But when you understand your authority, you stop begging life for change and start becoming the change. You stop waiting for doors to open and start walking through the ones that are already unlocked. Authority begins with responsibility. You can't command what you refuse to take ownership of. The moment you stop blaming others, your past, or your environment for your present condition, you step into a new level of power. You realize that while you may not control everything that happens to you, you do control what happens in you. And what happens in you determines what eventually happens around you. That's when your mindset shifts from victim to leader, from observer to participant, from survivor to architect. When you understand your authority, you no longer shrink in rooms where you're meant to stand. You no longer stay silent when your voice was designed to bring clarity. You no longer settle for less when you were created for more. You move with intention. You speak with conviction. You act with confidence. Not because everything is perfect, but because you know who you are even when things are uncertain. Spiritual authority is not loud arrogance. It is quiet certainty. It is knowing that you don't need to dominate people to influence outcomes. You influence outcomes by staying aligned with your purpose and disciplined in your actions. The more you walk in integrity, the stronger your authority becomes. The more you stay consistent, the more your life begins to respond to you. You don't discover your authority by waiting. You discover it by stepping forward. You don't unlock it by fearfully holding back. You unlock it by boldly showing up. The moment you stop asking who you are and start living like you already know, everything changes because change doesn't begin with circumstances. It begins with the authority you accept inside yourself. You don't fight darkness with fear. You overwhelm it with purpose. Fear is reactive. It waits for something to happen before it moves. Purpose is proactive. It moves before conditions are perfect. Darkness grows when people hesitate, when they doubt, when they retreat. But the moment purpose shows up, darkness loses its influence. Not because the problem disappears instantly, but because your direction becomes stronger than your doubt. Purpose doesn't ask how big the obstacle is. Purpose asks how clear your mission is. Most people try to fight negativity by avoiding it. They try to escape pressure, hide from challenges, and protect themselves from discomfort. But avoidance never creates victory. It only delays growth. You don't defeat fear by running from it. You defeat it by replacing it with intention. When you know why you wake up in the morning, fear has less space to speak. When you know what you're building, what you're becoming, and what you're standing for, darkness has no choice but to step back. Purpose gives your pain a direction. Without purpose, suffering feels meaningless. With purpose, struggle becomes training. Pressure becomes preparation. Resistance becomes proof that you're moving forward. Darkness tries to make you feel small, stuck, and uncertain. Purpose reminds you that your life is not random and your journey is not wasted. Even your hardest seasons are shaping your strongest version. You don't overwhelm darkness by shouting at it. You overwhelm it by walking forward anyway, by showing up when it would be easier to quit, by staying disciplined when it would be easier to drift, by choosing growth when it would be easier to stay comfortable. Every time you act with purpose, you push back against everything that tried to stop you. You don't need perfect conditions. You need clear conviction. Purpose also keeps you from becoming bitter. When you don't know why you're going through something, it's easy to become angry at life. But when you understand that your life is bigger than your feelings, you stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Use me." You realize that your story is not just for you. It's for the people who are watching how you handle pressure, disappointment, and delay. Darkness feeds on confusion. Purpose feeds on clarity. The more you understand what you're here to do, the less space fear has to control you. You stop letting circumstances define your mood. You stop letting other people's opinions shape your identity. You move with intention. You speak with confidence. You live with direction. You don't win by being fearless. You win by being focused. Because when your focus is strong enough, fear becomes irrelevant. And when your purpose is louder than your problems, nothing can stop the life you were born to live. So if this message spoke to you and lit something inside your spirit, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.